trying to think of how did I transition you into the first time? What did I say? It's Baseball at the Corner. This is the Michigan in Trouble podcast with your hosts, Alex S. Freeman and Luke Jaconis. Luke Jaconis. I always feel like I gotta qualify this for our listeners. Saw you yesterday when we did the live show.
Yeah.
And so we are recording on a Saturday afternoon. We're not planning to talk about news today. There's a little bit of news we're going to talk about at the top, but it's 2020 prospect related more than it is any other kind of news. So maybe something we say is going to be a little bit out of date, but that shouldn't happen to us this time. But we are recording Saturday afternoon. So if by Monday morning, for example, Spencer Torkelson has signed a deal, then we obviously will not be talking about that. But if you do want to hear our thoughts on this past week of will they, won't they in Major League Baseball 2020 season news, the episode immediately behind this one in the feed was our live show from Friday where we vented our frustrations, might be the best way to say it.
Agreed. I exercised some demons. And before I told Alex before we started recording, I said, I'm so happy not to be talking about labor laws and prorated salaries and negotiations. We're talking baseball related things, but not that. So if you are looking for another rant of why the players are being crappy or the owners are being crappy, you'll have to just wait till maybe next week or just go back and listen to literally like the last 3 months worth of content.
Yeah, truly.
That's pretty, since almost like April, that's kind of been the imagery and the motifs we've been putting out, but it is what it is. So
exactly. So with that, let's take a quick look at what we are going to talk about today. We're going to talk about quickly what draft picks we've signed so far and what's going on with that. Then we will talk about the Tigers announcers. Are they the worst of the worst? And then we'll talk about our top 5 bucket list stadiums. So we decided we wanted to go with a little fun show today. We didn't want to bury ourselves again after doing last night's live show to talk about the negotiations and the labor situation in Major League Baseball. So this is the last you're going to hear about that situation as we kind of dive into this conversation. So let's take a look first at the draft pick signings. It's going well. It's going really, really well. We have signed Dylan Dingler, 38th overall pick. He signed for full slot value of $1,952,300. Not a bad day. Not a bad day's work.
Nope. I could go for it.
I know, right? We could go for Trey Cruz out of Rice, signed for $900,000. Slot value was $857,400, so a little bit above slot, but that's okay. And then Colt Keith out of Biloxi, Mississippi, signed for $500,000. That's a Biloxi, Mississippi high school. Luke, would you like your first job out of high school to offer you a $500,000 signing there?
I would very much have liked to. My first job out of high school, now that I'm thinking about it, was a summer job when I was home from college. I was a lifeguard, and I did not make $500,000 being a lifeguard. If I made $500,000 being a lifeguard, I don't know if we'd be having conversations right now, because I probably would have dropped out of college and just blew through my money, and we never would have met, and the show never would have existed. So thanks Turtle Splash Water Park for not giving me $500K as a lifeguard.
His slot value was $426,600. So again, just a little bit above slot. And then we just the other day, yesterday perhaps, the news came down that we got Gage Workman under contract as well, the Arizona State third baseman.
That's a great name.
It's such a good name. We got him he signed for his full slot value. That's what we're reading the reports, which is $571,400. So looking good so far. So the 2 players left yet to sign are Daniel Cabrera out of Louisiana State. His projected slot value is $1.1 million. And then first baseman, third baseman, shortstop, designated hitter. He bats third. That's what was my favorite description.
Maybe he's going to manage.
Spencer Torkelson plays.
Who knows? Yeah.
What position does Torkelson play? He bats third. That's the position he plays. He's our number 1 overall pick, has not yet been signed. He's got a slot value of $8.415 million. My back of the napkin math tells me that there's enough money left for them to sign both of these guys at full slot value. So I don't foresee really an issue. Interesting to note, they are both repped by Scott Boras.
Oh God.
And so, which I think actually is like, it makes sense why these, why those are the two that haven't been signed yet. And it's not that, and the Tigers have a fine history of working with Scott and getting things done. I would imagine Scott basically told them, go get everybody else done and then come back to me so that I know exactly how much money you have left to do this. I think that if you do see somebody's number kind of change, it would be Spencer going down, like maybe to like 8.2, 8.1, and maybe some of the rest of that money going to Daniel. That might be kind of how Scott works this deal for his guys, and that. But otherwise, I think that I think things are looking good on the signings. Any thoughts on those 6 guys, Luke?
No, so just real quick about the Scott Boras thing. I mean, I know sometimes I kind of make jokes about it, but I mean, if I were a Major League Baseball player, I would 100% want Scott Boras to represent me because I know I'd be getting the best deal available because that's what he does. He's a good agent. He fights for his guys. But yeah, no, I mean, it's good. This is good news overall with the signings. 4 out of 6. 4 out of 6 is not bad. And, I think this is a positive. Again, we've kind of said it last week. What's been going on in the Tigers organization the last week and a half to 2 weeks has been very positive. I mean, I've even said it beyond the draft. I've been very impressed with how ownership has handled coronavirus and just some of the comments and statements they've made regarding paying their employees. We saw how it all started out at spring training. One thing we didn't really talk about, and I know you kind of mentioned it a few weeks ago, when all kind of the big protests were happening. I really appreciated how the Tigers are very vocal, pro for Black Lives Matter and a lot of the things with the protests and things like that. I don't know if you saw before the draft, all of the owners were holding up the Black Lives Matter signs before the draft began.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. I mean, just in general, I mean, I'm not trying to get like too preachy or anything. I think it's nice, and I've been very impressed with how the organization has handled everything. But yeah, so I think this is good. I mean, again, like I've been saying, I'm not really mad with the team right now or the organization. I think we're in the best shape we can be in. So, hats off to it, and let's hope these guys pan out.
Yeah, one interesting note: the Tigers have yet to sign a single undrafted free agent in this process, which a lot of other teams are going pretty aggressively into those guys, and the Tigers have not. And I think one of the reasons being that they've been focusing on getting their draft picks signed and making sure that gets taken care of. But I also think that when you ponder kind of the situation of everything, I don't know that it really, the farm system is in fine shape. I don't think that there's really a big concern about getting some of these guys into the organization that are not getting great deals. $20,000 max. It's difficult to incentivize a guy to come into the program that way. And so why not just wait that if he decides to go back to college, he can develop a little bit more and then perhaps if there's a guy that you're interested in, encourage him to go back to college and then come back when he's a little bit more of a valuable draft pick.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see with, kind of when we have like these draft classes, or if not even maybe not draft classes, but certain guys kind of, they go throughout the minor leagues together and they get called up to the major leagues around the same time. And, it's with anything in sports, life, whatever, there's always kind of like your group. They're there for a bit, and then it's a changing of the guard. The next group kind of gets ushered in. So right now, the up-and-coming group is Casey Mize, Matt Manning, Faedo, Isaac Paredes, Tarek Skubal, Derek Hill, Das Cameron, kind of that. Those are the guys coming up. But these guys we're seeing now, like Torkelson, the Riley Greens, Dylan Dingler, Gage Workman, Colt Keith. These are going to be like the next kind of group of guys. Although I will say this, I don't think, based off everything I've just been kind of reading and hearing and seeing, I'm not going to say he's going to be up here next season, but I feel like Spencer Torkelson is going to be up sooner rather than later. I really do. I don't think he is going to be a guy who's developing 4 or 5 years in the minor leagues and they're going to take their time with him. I think he will be up sooner than later. I'm not saying it's going to be necessarily in 2021. It could be. I mean, I don't know, but I think just regardless, we will see and feel his presence in Detroit rather soon.
Yeah, I would be pretty shocked if next season he didn't end up in Toledo by the end of the year. And so I think that's, and then that they'll probably keep him down in Toledo to start 2022, and then based on all of the various ways to manipulate service time in that regard, and then we'll see him in Detroit pretty. Yeah, I agree with you very quickly, and I think that's true of a lot of these guys. It's a big class of college players who showed a lot of success at the college level, and so I don't think that obviously there are adjustments to be made to get to the major league level, but there's a lot less runway needed than guys like Riley Green, than guys like Colt Keith, the lone high schooler in the class. Like we're not going to see Colt Keith for a while, but we will likely see. It'll be interesting to also see, in that note, like how quickly Dingler becomes a bit of a competition in that. Catching position.
I kind of talked about it on last week's episode. I mean, I want Jake Rogers to get his time. I think we've only heard that he's a defensive wizard behind home plate, and we didn't really get to see that in the sampling he gave us in 2019. But we've already discussed how 2019 was just a dumpster fire, so we can move on. But I would love to see I'd love to see Jake Rogers get his chance. But at the same time, I can also agree with you that I think at some point we are going to see a competition. You would have to imagine, between Jake Rogers and Dylan Dingler. Grayson Greiner's got to be sitting somewhere and be like, what the hell do I have to do just to keep the starting job? Because they bring in Austin Romine, and then, Jake Rogers is still like the guy, and then they go out and draft Dylan Dingler. Grayson Greiner's probably like, what the hell is going on? But, T-Stone, I like Greiner. That guy went to a couple games last year. That dude is tall. He is a tall man, Grayson Greiner. But, so, we'll see. It's going to be kind of interesting. Here's a little bit of a hypothetical for you. Who do you think makes their major league debut first, Spencer Torkelson or Riley Green?
I think Torque. I think Torque will be the guy.
I agree.
But I think it'll be close. I think they'll end up on pretty similar timelines in terms of like making their appearance in Detroit at what time they do that. I would not be surprised to see them arrive at about the same time. But I do think that we'll see Torque there first, because I think they're also going to be more interested in getting him there first. Yeah,
I agree. I think because you have to remember too, Riley's younger, I believe, because I think they drafted him. He was like 18 when they drafted him. Spencer was 20, so Spencer's got a couple of years, maybe a year and a half on him. I don't know exactly off the top of my head, but I just think in general you are right. I think there's going to be more of an urgency to get Spencer Torkelson up to the majors. I'm not saying that they're not valuing that time with Riley Green. Riley Green is definitely a massive part of our success in the future. But there's just something about Torkelson. I think it's just like the presence. It's like he is going to be the number 3 hitter. He is going to be our big power hitter. And because, we love Miggy. And I've said I still think Miggy is productive, but I can acknowledge Miggy is not Triple Crown Miggy anymore. So, we need to kind of start filling that void that Miggy once held. Like, again, Miggy is still going to be productive for the team, and he's with the team, I think, through 2023, I want to say. So he's not going anywhere in anytime soon. And I will say this, kind of to harken back to a conversation you, Tom, and I had a few weeks ago. I think 100% we will see Miggy, Spencer Torkelson, and Riley Green in the same lineup at a point in time.
I think
100%.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I think that season is probably 2022. That's
gonna be so cool. God, that's gonna be so awesome. I cannot wait.
Because that's what they want to get awesome. Torkelson up because they want to let Miggy be a DH. And they announced the potential switch to third base for him, but I don't believe that. I think that they're gonna potentially like work with him to develop some of those skills so that option exists, that optionality is there, but that they, especially in a scenario where we don't get a DH in the National League, and so you want to be able to keep Miggy's bat in the lineup, but also not like lose torque in the process. So you want to be able to put him somewhere else, because you certainly don't want Miggy at this point trying to play third base again.
No, oh god, it'd be impossible. It'd be impossible. No disrespect, Miggy, but no, it can't happen.
And so you want to develop that in Spencer Torkelson for some of those situations. Although I think that, and I especially think that as we kind of look to the future, as it looks like the DH is going to be making its way into both leagues within the next 2 seasons in some form or the other. And so then I think that becomes less of a concern, and they will just be like, let's just keep him at first base and let's get him on the roster. He is the first baseman of the future. Like how Riley Green is
I mean, right now I think he's in right field right now. I
Mhm.
mean, he could always maybe change. I don't know. But right now, Riley Green is one of the outfielders of the future. At a point in time, we said Jake Rogers is the catcher of the future. Casey Mize is probably the ace of the future, him or Matt Manning. You can, make an argument. But yeah, and I think you're definitely going to see Spencer Torkelson at first, just because I think that competition at third base, there's a lot of guys who can fill that spot right now between Jamer Candelario, who probably like Grayson Griner, is probably looking around going like, what the hell? Wasn't I just like the big name coming to Detroit a couple years ago? And now my time has been gone like that.
Mhm.
But, you got Jamer at third. I think they had Harold Castro go to third a few times. You got Isaac Paredes, Doel Lugo, Willie Castro, I think has gone over. Then they just drafted, was it Trey Cruz?
Yep.
But I know he was maybe shortstop, but I know they drafted a couple of guys who could play short or third. So, I mean, there's going to be such stiff, excuse me, there's going to be such stiff competition at third base. Why throw Spence's name into that? Again, kind of like what you said, have him prepped and trained there if need be for him to go to third. But he's the first baseman of the future, so let's just get it going.
But either way, the future is going to be bright for the team, and maybe that will help our broadcast team, as they were recently declared the worst of the worst. Luke, you brought us this story. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, so I believe the story came from The Athletic, and pretty much what it all comes down to is the Tigers were voted dead last in terms of, well, not only were they dead last in 2019, the team, but also the broadcasters took a hit as well, because they were voted the worst broadcasting team in Major League Baseball for the 2019 season. So I have a lot of issues with this for a couple of reasons. One, the product on the field in 2019 was absolute garbage. So, I mean, what do these guys really have to broadcast about when you only win, I think it was 47 or 48 games last year? There's not much to really go on about from there because the team was just so bad. And then on top of that, this new team of Matt Shepard, Kirk Gibson, Jack Morris, sometimes Dan Petrie would come in, Craig Monroe, and just other various former Tigers and analysts. They were all brand new. Mm-hmm. On top of that, too, another point that I think people aren't really considering, although stats may prove otherwise, I know you've got some saved here in a second that you're going to show. Rod and Mario, we were all Tiger fans, are pretty big fans of Rod and Mario. So those are pretty big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
So I just didn't like it. This might sound kind of like complaining and whining of me, but it just felt a little unfair. And also after the season we had in 2019, it's like, why are you kicking a guy when he's down? Like, it was already so bad last year. Do we really need this on top of it too? And also another thing, Tigers fans, give Matt Shepard a chance. I like that guy. I think he's going to be a really, really good, commentator for the Tigers hopefully for years to come. And I think as a play-by-play guy, I think he's going to really kind of be the anchor that keeps everything going. So, because right now you would make an argument if it's Matt Shepard and Kirk Gibson. Matt is play-by-play, while Kirk Gibson is more of the color commentary.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And then they sometimes swap in, like Jack Morris rotates in and out, and they get in other guys. So it'd be interesting. I don't know, but yeah, take it easy on Matt Shepard, Tigers fans. I think that guy's going to be good. I think he's going to be a good play-by-play guy for years to come. So, yeah, I just didn't like it. It just felt a little bit like, really, like this on top of everything we had to go through last season. There's not anyone else. I look at the guys who have been together for years, and years. And when you listen to them, it sounds like you're listening to the teacher from Ferris Bueller,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, that's just my kind of thing. And obviously I'm biased because I'm a Tigers fan, but just, I don't know. It just kind of rubbed me the wrong way a bit.
I think that is a fair defense of them, in that it was their first season together, and it was a garbage fire of a season. And it's much easier to talk about baseball when things are going well. It is much easier to put together a fun broadcast when things are going well. And also when you like really know your scene partner, to put it in terms that we can talk about effectively, Luke. Like, when you know your partner in the moment, then you know the kind of like how to set them up for a story, how to set them up for something, how to where they're going to go next. And these guys they don't have that relationship yet. And I think that they will get it. It just is not quite there yet, and it was not helped by the fact that there was not good baseball to watch. So the only reason you would be watching the broadcast is for those guys, and they just they weren't quite ready for prime time under those particular conditions.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, there's going to be growing pains. They're gonna have to kind of learn to work together, and kind of they'll gel and mold over time, and hopefully they'll form into a pretty solid unit. I think I could definitely see it happening, and we just got to kind of wait and see. And I think it can happen. I think in general this team's stock is on the rise. So why not? Let's say the broadcasters are on the rise too.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And so, like you said in the show notes here, I do have some statistics for you. I always do.
Yep.
And so I went to awfulannouncing.com, which is the site that
That's a real website.
a blog dedicated to bad announcing.
Awesome.
And
That's
so
awesome.
every year in about August, they grade all of the broadcast teams for each club, and there's a whole process. I didn't really read it. I just wanted to know the conclusions. And so the last year, 2019, the Tigers were not dead last by awful announcing. We were 28th in the rankings for awful announcing, which
Progress.
felt better. And so then I started doing a little bit of diving to see. I was like, okay, so does this more or less track to how good the team is by chance? And what I discovered is that it does not. And so the top five last year in 2019 were the Dodgers team, which they went 106-56. So that feels, 100+ win season. That feels easy to announce.
Yep.
The Orioles were up there, 54-108. The
Wow.
Mets, 86-76. Giants went 77-85. The Padres went 70-92. So the only two teams with a winning record in that top five. And so that to me was interesting. But then I also what I didn't dive into is how long these broadcast teams had been together. And you think about the Orioles, their team has many years of experience of announcing atrocious seasons. And so they have figured out a way to move people through those games as the product on the field is awful. And so that also then brought me to, okay, well, what were Mario and Rod doing in these rankings as well? And so every single year since 2015, they kept sliding down the rankings, which I think can also track to their relationship sliding downhill from there, and also the team sliding downhill. So all of those things kind of working together took them from, in 2015 they were ranked 11th. 2016 they were down to 15th. 2017 they were 19th. They were 23rd last year. And so then picking up the pieces in 2019 with an even worse baseball team, this brand new group only sliding to 28 and not going all the way to the bottom, that actually feels pretty good to give them credit for that.
Yeah. I wonder with Rod and Mario when they started calling games together, because if it was the early 2000s, they had to endure some pretty crappy Tiger teams. But then from 2006 to 2013, pretty much every year they were a competitive team. They may not have won the division or made it to the playoffs, but they were usually, I think from 2006 to 2013, if I'm thinking off the top of my head, there's only one year they didn't make it. They didn't even finish 500, and that was 2008. They had a couple right around 500 seasons, but they were always ultimately they were a competitive baseball team. So I wonder when they started having a couple of those crappy years from 2015 to now, that really put a strain on Rod and Mario's relationship. Because I loved hearing them call games back in the day, and I wonder when they were more of a competitive team, if maybe their relationship was stronger. You and I are getting along right now when the Tigers are crappy. So what happens if they get good and then we start hating each other?
Oh, yikes.
What if we do a reverse Rod and Mario?
A reverse. Hopefully the real trick will be that when they inevitably start getting crappy again, that does not cause the downfall of our relationship.
That would be a shame. It'd be awkward.
Although maybe this bodes well for the current broadcast team that perhaps they will not, perhaps Shep and Morris will not start, hating each other because they started together in the depths of one of the 2019 season.
That's a great point. I don't know if Rod and Mario were together in 2003, but that's when the Tigers lost. I think they lost 120 games, maybe more. Then that's known as one of the worst seasons in Major League Baseball history. So I really don't know off the top of my head if they were together in the broadcast booth.
It's the second worst season in Major League Baseball history. We couldn't we couldn't even be the best at being the worst.
Yeah, see, so that's a good point. Maybe with Matt Shepard, Kirk Gibson, Jack Morris, and kind of the other cavalcade of people that get in and out of the booth during games, maybe sitting through these really awful times, hopefully, they'll be like, all right, that was the worst it can be. We can only go up from here. You'd have to imagine it's a shame, who knows what's going on with baseball this year, but even into next year, I am going to really keep an eye and an ear out more so to the Houston Astros announcers because, that's like the elephant in the room. They lost their manager. They lost, wasn't it their GM or their owner or whoever it was, Crane. So yeah, I know that talk about, I guess it could be worse of things we'd have to be talking about, but yeah, it's I don't think dead last was fair, but that's just my opinion. And that's
and that's the thing too, is that you think about how potentially bright the future is for this announcing team, because a great product on the field would cover a lot of bad habits that they may have as announcers and commentators in play-by-play, because we're just watching exciting baseball, and therefore the TV show is good. And so hopefully now we've given them a lot of opportunity to get notes on how to make the TV show better. That is a professional baseball game, and so that as the product on the field gets better, these guys have also improved, and so then it can become a really great thing.
Yeah, I think what they need, and I don't even really remember like what Rod and Mario's was off the top of my head, but a good home run call. A good home run call goes a long way.
Yeah, I mean they didn't really have a lot of cause to develop a good home run call in 2019.
Yeah, well, last year's home run leader was Brandon Dixon, and I think he had 15 or 16.
Yeah, it was it was a gross season.
I don't think anyone in the past 2 years. I'm pretty sure this is correct. In the last 2 years, 2018 and 2019, no Tigers player hit over 20 home runs. Yeah. I think the leader in 2018 was Jeimer Candelario. He had 19 home runs. And I believe last year's leader, I know, was Brandon Dixon, and he either had 14, 15, or 16 in that ballpark. Yeah. No Tigers player hit over 20 home runs in the last 2 years. And that is why, and that's what happens, and then that's what leads to broadcasters brawling in the booth because they're just so pissed off.
Because what else do you do? They got to do something to make it exciting, right?
Yeah. Anywho, but yeah, let's honestly though, I have a lot of faith in these guys, and again, I'm a big Matt Shepard. I'm a big fan of Matt Shepard. Even in the small sampling size we got of him last year, and even in the crap year that was 2019, I don't know. I think the dude has a ton of potential to kind of really truly become the voice of the Tigers, and I hope he proves everybody wrong. And just know, Matt, if you're out there watching this, we were never doubting you. We were in your camp from day one. So
Michigan in trouble in Matt Shepard's corner.
Absolutely.
All the way. Well, Luke, there is one surefire way to not have to deal with a local broadcast team, and that is to go to the stadium. And so we, in an effort to continue a more fun episode, we are going to talk about our top 5 bucket list stadiums to visit. And I think to kick things off, before people get mad at us for not including a particular stadium, we should disclose the stadiums we've been to. So I'll kick us off here. I have seen games in Busch Stadium, Comerica Park, and Angel Stadium. Not a lot of active stadiums currently and on my list. I also did was lucky enough to see a game in Tiger Stadium while it was still standing. And so I don't want to don't be mad at me for not including a time travel trip to see a game in Tiger Stadium on my top 5 bucket list places to go, as that does seem like a thing that I would do, but that's why I haven't done it, because I did it. So I don't need to find a way to travel through time. Luke, where have you seen professional baseball games?
Okay, so I think I've got 6 active stadiums, and then I have one that is no longer an active major league stadium, kind of similar to you, but your Tiger Stadium was probably much cooler than the stadium that I went to that no longer exists. So just throwing that out there. So the stadiums I've been to: Wrigley Field, Guaranteed Rate Field, Comerica Park, PNC Park, Busch Stadium, Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. And then the stadium I went to that is no longer active is the Marlins, Sun Life or Sun Trust, whatever it is, where the Miami Dolphins still play, but the Florida Marlins no longer play there.
Everybody loves a good built for football baseball stadium.
I think I might have said this because I feel like we probably have. I know we've kind of had smaller conversations about stadiums on the show before, but that game I went to, I got to see actor Luke Wilson from the movie Old School throw out the first pitch. So
look at that. Did he get it across the plate?
I believe he did, yes. And I believe the Marlins played the Nationals. And if I'm not mistaken, it was the first year that the Nationals were were in Major League Baseball because, they were the Expos and they became the Nats and everything. So that was kind of cool. PNC's beautiful. Busch Stadium is beautiful. Great American Ballpark is a lot of fun. I haven't been to Comerica in over 10 years, so I was planning to go to a game this year, but then coronavirus and greed got the better of those plans, so we'll just move on. And Wrigley Field, I think, is fine. I'm not a huge Wrigley guy, and this is a very hot take, and I'm almost certain 95 to 100% of people will disagree with me. I prefer Guaranteed Rate Field, the White Sox Stadium, to Wrigley Field where the Cubs play. I don't know what it is. I think the stadium where the Sox play is better than the Cubs. I think there's something about it I just like more. Now, the surrounding area around Wrigley is much better than the surrounding area down where the Sox play because actually, in Wrigleyville, you can go to bars and restaurants and then go to the game. There's like 1 or 2 bars by the Sox and then just the stadium. So Wrigleyville's got the better surrounding area, but Guaranteed Rate, in my opinion, is the better stadium. Just my opinion. I think Wrigley is rather overrated.
This is great. This transitions us right into my bucket list parks because right at one of the first parks I wrote down was Wrigley Field. I've not seen a game at Wrigley Field. Okay. It feels like a park that, and part of why it's there is because it is one of the parks that it feels like you should go to if you're a Major League Baseball fan, and if you haven't been to a game at Wrigley, then you should go see a game at Wrigley. Am I wrong in thinking that, Luke?
No, I think everyone should definitely go. And in general, I want to say this too. I think with all stadiums, it doesn't matter if I think the stadium's great, crap, whatever it might be. I'll go to any stadium pretty much and see a game. I mean, who wouldn't? If you're a diehard baseball fan, of course you would take that opportunity. My issue, I think, with Wrigley is people think it's like so prestigious and it's such a relic. But in my eyes, they keep doing so many modernized refurbishments that I think it's starting to kind of lose that old school charm. Like, for example, they put that massive Videotron in the right field bleachers. Was that there back in the day when Ernie Banks was hitting home runs? I don't think so. Now, I have an older stadium on my list here, and I'm not going to be saying that stadium hasn't done, the basic maintenance and whatnot. But from everything I can see of that stadium, which I'll get to in a little bit, it still kind of seems it maintains that old school structural integrity of years past. Wrigley, for me, is just becoming too modern. I don't know. And then I get angry and people are like, it should be in the Smithsonian. It's like, no, it shouldn't. No, it should not be. Yeah. You can't fit a stadium inside a museum. Have you lost your mind? Because I'll help you find it. But so you should, though, Alex, you should go to a game at Wrigley because I know you're a big baseball fan. Everyone should at least experience it. Yeah. And I went to 2 games there last year, and it was fun. I will say this, sitting in the bleachers, that's a pretty fun time. It's kind of a cool atmosphere and, a bit different. But, yeah, it's just not my personal favorite. But you should definitely check it out.
All right. Well, I will keep it on my bucket list then.
Yes.
What's one off of yours, Luke?
Okay. So first, I have a couple honorable mentions. Should I rifle through those real quick?
Let's do those after.
I've
got a couple. Yeah. So let's do our bucket list, and then we'll talk about what didn't make the list and why.
Okay. So I actually have mine ranked from 5 to 1 because I'm kind of a nerd with baseball stadiums, and I love them. So number 5, and this might be a little bit controversial too. I don't know quite as controversial saying Guaranteed Rate is better than Wrigley, but I'll let the listeners and the viewers decide for themselves. Number 5 is Petco Park for me. On every list that you see, Petco Park is usually ranked number 1, the best stadium without question in Major League Baseball. And I'm not denying that. I would love to go to San Diego, one, because I've just never been to the West Coast ever in my life. But in general, I would love to go to Petco Park because I just think it looks awesome. The only reason why Petco isn't higher on my list, and this is maybe a little bit wrong for me to kind of incorporate this into my rankings, prior to the last year and kind of what they're going to be doing in the future, the Padres to me have always just been such a boring team. Mm-hmm. Like they're definitely on the up and up now, but for years, they were just so boring. Like, it's just like a team you'd watch and it'd be like, ugh, like, I think Houston Street's the closer. Like, maybe, I don't know. I just think general prior, I think San Diego sports aren't the greatest. And I know the Chargers don't play in San Diego anymore. Now they're the LA Chargers. But even when they were the San Diego Chargers, I thought they were a boring football team. I think the Padres are kind of a boring baseball team. They're definitely on the up and up. But that's just the one kind of nitpick that I would say why it's not my number one to visit. But I need to get out to see Petco. Everyone I've heard that has gone out there loves it. They think it's the absolute best. All the rankings that you see online always have it. It's, if not number one, it's always in the top 5. So I need to get the Petco. But for me, Petco is my number 5.
And San Diego is a beautiful city. I've not been to a game at Petco, but I have been to San Diego. When I lived in Los Angeles, I did drive down the freeway and make my way to San Diego for a day trip. But it's absolutely gorgeous. One of the cool things that you can do in San Diego outside of watching a baseball game is there's a bunch of beaches that seals will just kind of sunbathe on. So you can just go, get some of the best Mexican food you've ever eaten and take it to go to the beach. And you can just look at these seals, which are ugly creatures. They are not cute, but they are fascinating Are
you talking about seals the animals or seal the singer is tanning on the beach?
Yes.
Both.
There's both. There's usually seals the animal, and the thing that's not cute is the seal the singer that is out tanning. That's the uncute seal.
People go, oh no, this is a family beach.
That's right, exactly.
God, hey, isn't Seal Kiss from a Rose? God bless him. God bless him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my next one that I'm going to go is another historic park that I've not been to a game at, which is Fenway. And obviously, we have new Fenway. It's not Fenway, but it still seeing a game at Fenway in Boston that sounds, it just is similar to why Wrigley is on my list. It's one of those things that it just feels like you're supposed to do as a baseball fan. Is you're supposed to go see a game at Fenway. You're supposed to wear your visiting team colors, and then you're supposed to get your butt kicked by a bunch of guys in Boston bars. And that's just what awesome. You do. That's the trip.
Yeah. It's pretty terrific. You get your butt kicked. They give you a swirly. They steal your wallet. Maybe Ben Affleck spits on you or something. It's a heck of a day at the ballpark at Fenway. Yeah, no, that park will also be appearing on my list very soon. But I echo all your thoughts that you said there. I agree 100%. My number 4 is actually a little bit, maybe of a surprise. Camden Yards in Baltimore. I have heard that this stadium is really, really pretty. And obviously the team that is on the field is not that great and or pretty, but the stadium I hear is absolutely magnificent. So I definitely want to check out Camden Yards sometime in Baltimore. Isn't it kind of funny? You hear that the stadium is great. That article that you were reading that said the announcers are very good, yet the team isn't good. So it's like they've got 2 out of the 3 things that you would want for a good day at the ballpark. Unfortunately, the one thing they don't have is the thing you really want to have at the ballpark, but you can't win them all. So yeah, Camden Yards for me in Baltimore is a stadium that's definitely on my bucket list.
Yeah, Camden did not make my list, but it was definitely a close miss that in terms of parks on there, because for all those reasons. And again, it's Camden Yards is another one of those places where, like, as a baseball fan, it's like, okay, yeah, I gotta go see a game at Camden Yards. Like, if you're doing a tour of the big historic name stadiums, that's on it. That's on the list for sure.
I agree.
I'm going to go to a park that you have been to as well here, PNC Park in Pittsburgh. I have heard too many good things about the stadium, the in-stadium experience, and also the area around the stadium, that it just sounds like a great place to spend a day down by the river and seeing all those great things. There's the casino right there. There's literally anything you could want for a day of sports and beer and hot dogs.
Yeah, I'm trying to look it up real quick. In my opinion, it is the best stadium food I've ever had.
Ooh, I love that.
I think Busch is still my favorite stadium all time, but the food at PNC trumps the food at Busch 100%. I got to just look it up 1 second here. PNC Park. It's called the Pittsburgher. I want to see if I can tell you what this is. I remember, let's see here. Is it going to be nice to me? It's probably not going to be here. Anyways, it was essentially, it was a burger, and I'm trying to remember what the hell was on it. It had coleslaw on it, French fries, ketchup, and pickles, and it was just like a meat patty of some sort, and it was delicious. And it was a sandwich between these like two huge pieces of like Texas toast. It was like, I'm pretty sure that's what it was, if I'm not mistaken. It was so good.
That's so great.
Good. And you guzzle that down with an ice cold beer. Great stadium, great food, beautiful skyline with that bridge in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And just the buildings and everything. PNC is an absolute delight. Definitely got to get back there at some point myself.
Awesome. What's number 3 for you, Luke?
Number 3, Coors Field in Colorado. I have actually been to Colorado twice. Love the state. Love it. I never really spent much time in the Denver area. I was always more out in Breckenridge doing some skiing. But I just like the feel of Colorado. I've only been there a few times. Every time I'm there, I'm kind of like, I dig it here. I really dig it here. And everything I've read about Coors Field is that it is an awesome afternoon at the ballpark with the altitude, the stadium views, and just like having some nice, crisp, ice cold beer. It just sounds, I could just see myself being at a game there on a beautiful sunny afternoon, having a couple beers, just letting the sun just completely douse me and watching baseball. It seems awesome. And I've always liked the Rockies. I think they're a cool team. I know they're never really the best. More often than not, they're kind of more towards the bottom of the pack, especially in the NL West. But I've always just thought the Rockies are a cool team. So Coors Field is my number 3.
Yeah, my list is not in order, so I'm just going to kind of piggyback on Coors Field as well, because that's on my list of bucket list stadiums, because for a lot of the same reasons that you did. And also it's one of those, when you're playing various baseball video games, you can choose to play what park you're in, and I pretty regularly choose Coors Field when given the option of where to play the game. So the Detroit Tigers have played many a home game at Coors Field in my life as a video game baseball player, and just because I think it's beautiful surroundings, and it's I've never stayed in Colorado. I've driven through Colorado, and I've driven, through those mountains, and it's just beautiful to look at. And that's ultimately, as much as we love baseball, there can be some games that get real boring in the, 5th, 6th, 7th innings before things either in a blowout or in a game that is just no one's getting any hits going. And so it's important to have nice views in the stadium, which is one of the things that Busch Stadium, we've both sort of alluded to. We've been to games together even at Busch Stadium. And that's one of the things too that Busch Stadium has going for it, is that there's those beautiful views. PNC Park has the beautiful views. The views at Comerica are nice, but I don't know that they're necessarily this kind of sky. There's a few spots where you're looking at Ford Field and it's a nice view, but it's not the same kind of magnificent huge view of the St. Louis Arch that Busch Stadium has, or of the bridge that PNC has, or of the Rocky Mountains that Coors has. Yeah.
The Ilitch family got to throw up some mountains in that skyline, then we can talk.
Let's just paint them on the side of Ford Field. That'll be fine.
That would work. Did you so you went
that was
me,
me,
right?
Yeah, that was me.
So I'll bounce back to one that you mentioned earlier. Fenway Park was my number 2.
Yeah.
For all the reasons you stated, to me, Fenway is the park in Major League Baseball that still, from everything I've read, everything I've seen, one of my best friends is a diehard Red Sox fan, and he always tells me that he feels like the stadium really hasn't changed that much in all the years he's gone. He went when he was a little kid, to teenager, to high school, college, to a grown adult now. And every time he comes back, I always feel like he's telling me, dude, it hasn't changed. It's, you got the Green Monster, you got the pesky pole or whatever out in right field. It just, the atmosphere, the fans, he said, it's just a baseball experience. And I would love to get out to Fenway just to catch a game, because I feel like although I'm not a big fan of Wrigley Field, I would say right now you got to get to Wrigley and you got to get to Fenway if you're a diehard baseball fan, just so you can kind of be like, okay, I saw these. Back when Yankee Stadium was open, 10, 12 years ago before they got the new Yankee Stadium, that also would have been on the list, obviously. but now they got rid of that. Now it's new Yankee Stadium. And I honestly have no desire to go to new Yankee Stadium. It's small. I hear it's not that great. Everything is probably way overpriced, and I just have no desire. But Fenway Park, definitely one I got to check out.
Yeah. And we'll talk about, like, Yankee Stadium is not my next pick, but it is definitely one that I considered new Yankee Stadium, but for a lot of those reasons that it's not. It is new Yankee Stadium. There's a lot of issues with the stadium. There's actually a really great 30 for 30 about the building of new Yankee Stadium and how everybody hated George Steinbrenner and what he did in building that stadium. But so it also, like, I now live in New York, so I'm also not concerned about getting to Yankee Stadium or Citi Field. Like, I will be at those games at some point in the next few years while I live in New York.
Yeah. And you know what? And maybe now I'm thinking about it, maybe that's one of the reasons too why I'm not such a big Wrigley guy, because it's like I've done it a bunch. You know, people come from all around the world to be like, I got to see a game at Wrigley Field. It's like it's on my bucket list. And there's, stupid little privileged me who got to go there when he was like in the second grade on field trips, once a year. And I'm like, yeah, it's not that great. It's not that great. So maybe that's why too, kind of my animosity towards Wrigley, but also that's how you might feel after a while with, assuming you stay in the Big Apple for many years to come, Yankee and Citi Field, they could just kind of be like, oh yeah, now I've been there, done that kind of thing. It's like it'll become a tourist attraction to you. Real New Yorkers aren't going every weekend to the Statue of Liberty, I would assume.
Exactly.
But,
exactly.
So,
well, and the thing is that Citi Field may retain some of its luster just because it's all the way out there in Flushing. It's so far away from where I live that it is like quite a hike, as opposed to Yankee Stadium, which is literally a 30-minute walk from my apartment. So I could get there in 10 minutes on public transportation, assuming the bus is on time.
I got to walk when I was living in the city last year every day. I'd take a step out of my apartment, I'd see Wrigley, and that was really cool. I mean, not even being a Cub fan, not being really a huge fan of the stadium, it was cool to literally just walk outside on your back porch and be like, that's a Major League Baseball stadium right here. Like, that's insane. I would see guys from the team walking around all the time. It was cool. It was cool. It was a neat experience. So yeah.
But my last bucket list stadium is Oracle Park in San Francisco. Let's go out to the Bay and let's see a game. And that's there a couple of reasons. One, I think it's a beautiful looking stadium. It looks every time I watch it on TV, it looks cool. You got those beautiful views out into the Bay to see that. But also, I just really I've spent a little bit of time in San Francisco, and I would love to spend more time in San Francisco. And so, like, let's go to a ball game while we're out there.
Great minds think alike, because that is my number one, is Oracle Ballpark. I have always, as a kid, the one thing that always attracted me to the stadium, and it still does to this day as an adult, I love the concept of McCovey Cove out in right field. Yeah. That if you hit the ball far enough to right field, it will go into the cove where then people will fight over it in kayaks. Yeah. I thought that was awesome when I was 10. I think it's awesome when I'm 25. And that alone just drew me in from the get-go. But on top of that, I've only heard that San Francisco is an absolutely beautiful city. I'd love to get there one day and experience it for myself. And I just think in general, the stadium looks cool. I just think it's really laid out and structurally looks really cool. And just, kind of like the thing I said about Coors Field, I could easily see myself on a nice sunny afternoon, just sitting out there, baking in the sun, drinking some beer, having a couple hot dogs, and just enjoying baseball. And kind of also like the Rockies too. I've always liked the Giants. They're kind of a cool team. Obviously, I wasn't too pleased with them in the year 2012, but I can let bygones be bygones. But yeah, no, definitely. Oracle for me is number one on a stadium I have to see at some point in my life.
Yeah, like my list was not in order, but I would put Oracle at number one as well. So it sounds like we have a trip to plan, Luke.
I'll have talked. I have a big idea for a show I've always wanted to do, but I can't say it here because I don't want anybody to steal it. But I'll have to talk to you about it sometime. It's essentially just going from ballpark to ballpark and literally reviewing and ranking all of Major League Baseball stadiums and doing like a live show and interacting with staff and guests and just like doing food reviews and everything like that. So yeah, I just gave away my $1 billion idea. So way to go, Luke.
Now we have a $12 podcast as opposed to $1 billion show.
God dang it, idiot. Yeah, no, but yeah, I would love to. Honestly, I would love to do like a road trip. I went to high school with a guy. I don't know if he holds the world record anymore. I don't remember what his brother's name was. But I went to high school with a guy who his older brother, I believe, set the world record at a point in time for visiting the most Major League Baseball stadium in the least amount of days.
Oh, wow.
I think I want to say he visited all 30 in under 30 days.
Oh, that's incredible. Well, because I guess you could double up. Like if you had an afternoon game at Citi Field, you could get to an evening game at Yankee.
Yep.
And then you can get on a plane to Philadelphia.
Yep. I mean, I would imagine that's kind of how you'd want to hit it. You'd definitely want to stay. You would definitely want a lot of games when like the Cubs and the Sox are both in town, because you don't want to have to go to a game at Guaranteed Rate and then come back 5 days later to a game at Wrigley.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure I had a friend. I should reach out to him. See, I wonder if his brother still did that, or if he still holds the record. But yeah, in high school, I knew a guy. He used to play baseball with him on our high school team. But yeah,
that's
pretty
incredible.
Neat.
Yeah.
So we have some honorable mentions, and I know we want to wrap up. So why don't you go ahead first and give me yours?
Yeah, my one that I haven't mentioned so far in conversation is Dodger Stadium, and the reason it didn't make my list is because I have been to Dodger Stadium. I just have not watched a baseball game there, and so it sort of fell off the priority list in terms of like these other stadiums I've not ever set in, and so I have been in Dodger Stadium, and that's where the Los Angeles Marathon starts, is in Dodger Stadium, and then it goes out to Santa Monica Pier. But so in the morning, the staging area is inside the stadium, and so I've seen it. It's beautiful. It would be a great place to watch a game. There's no question about that. And I would love to do that. It fell off the top 5 because I have stepped foot in it.
Yep. I would like to visit the Dodger Stadium. The one big draw about Dodger Stadium are the Dodger dogs. And I've had multiple friends who have gone to Dodger Stadium and have said the Dodger dogs are overrated. They're overpriced hot dogs. Wow. They're just overpriced hot dogs. I mean, which I don't doubt. I mean, Wrigley Field had pretty good hot dogs, but I don't need to pay $7 to know that, $7 or $8. To me, that's not the most bang for your buck, but that's another discussion. I have 3. I have 3 here, and I want you to stay with me on these 3 because 2 of them are legitimate. One of them is kind of a wild card, and we'll save that for the very end. So the first one I have is T-Mobile Park in Seattle. I hear Seattle is an absolutely beautiful stadium as well. That's very far west. That's very northwest. I definitely have to do some traveling to get up there. I've just heard that stadium is pretty incredible, so I just, kind of from word of mouth, I would like to see that. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly. The one where the Braves play, is it Truist Park?
I think so.
Truist?
Yeah, Truist is what I would.
Yeah, that's what I was going. That's what I was assuming for.
Not Turner Field.
Yeah, not Turner Field. Which actually, I like Turner Field. I mean, 'cause I used to drive by that all the time when I would drive down with my grandparents to their house in Florida, when we would do the road trips back in the day, when it was always a big thing to like look out the window and see the stadium. Truist Park, I know it's a newer stadium, but I definitely think it looks kind of interesting. USA Today ranked all of the major league stadiums back in March, and I don't remember where Truist fell. I think it was somewhere in the teens, like maybe mid to late teens. And they said, yes, it's a nice stadium. It is new. However, you'll get annoyed when you're waiting 30 minutes in line to get a hot dog. And I was like, that would annoy me. That would annoy me. But you have to imagine that's just kind of how it is. New stadium, there's kind of that hype and anticipation around it. So you would have to expect larger crowds at Truist. Oh, by the way, the article from USA Today Sports had the Tigers ranked 21st overall.
I would call that a little low, but maybe not unfair. I think Comerica is a great place to watch a game. I've always had a great time, but in terms of like going to a stadium for the stadium, Comerica is probably not it. Yeah,
it said, I think their reason was they had Comerica actually ranked right along with Great American Ballpark and Cincy, and they both, the synopsis on both the parks was like, this stadium is fine. It is by no means the worst stadium in baseball, but there's definitely better places you can go to watch a baseball game.
I feel like there's just like less enjoyment. You got to be a Comerica for the baseball, which is why I go. And but then you think about some of these other parks that are really great is that they have things that you can bring the entire family. For people that have people in your family that have less interest in baseball, there are still like really nice draws for them. There's things that they can entertain themselves with in case of a not exciting game, which I'm still going to sit there and watch every at bat of a 10-0 game. Like,
I never leave games early. It is, I think it is a cardinal sin for fans of baseball, unless you have a medical emergency or someone is facing a medical emergency, or maybe your significant other is going into labor or something insane. If you're a true diehard baseball fan, you should never leave the game early unless you have extraordinary circumstances or it gets rained out and the staff says you need to leave. You better sit your ass down and watch that whole game. Nothing drives me up a wall more than when fans leave games early and yet they claim to be diehards. You're not a diehard to me if you're leaving in the 6th inning because your team's getting blown out. Trust me, I know. Last season, I went to a Sox game when the Tigers were in town. Detroit was up 9-2, lost 12-10 in extra innings. I stayed there the whole time and watched that monstrosity. So that's my little rant for today's episode. But before we wrap up, my last stadium that I would like to see, and this one is almost from a humor standpoint, because on every single list, it is always ranked, if not worst, second worst in all of Major League Baseball. No, it is not the Coliseum in Oakland. It is Tropicana Field in Tampa Bay. Every article, everything I've ever read or heard about this stadium is, oh my God, this place is a dump. And there's something that's so intriguing about it to me to go watch a game there. And I almost went a couple years ago, and I was with some buddies in Tampa for Memorial Day weekend, and we didn't go for some reason. I don't even think the Rays were in town. That's probably why we didn't go. But I was like so down to go, and I remember I was so excited to go. And my friends were like, "Why are you so jonesing to go see this? This place is a dumpster fire, crap bin." And I was like, "There's just something about I have to see the car wreck with my own eyes. I have to see it."
I have to, in prep for this show, some of the stadiums that I had just like not looked at images of in a while. I was just like pulling up pictures and seeing it. And I pulled up some pictures of Trop, and I was like, what even is this thing? What is happening?
They built the stadium to a point, like if you hit a home run high enough and it goes over the catwalk, but not into the stands, it's a home run. Like the dimensions don't make any sense. They play on AstroTurf. At one point in time, there was a fish tank out in center field, full of devil rays. Like PETA could not have approved of that. It's such an interesting thing to me. I have to get down there and catch a game.
Really went for it when they built the Trop.
Also, like Tampa gets no support from their fans, so I feel like if you go, there's probably only going to be like 8 other people at the game, so you probably have a good chance at catching a foul ball or something. I have to kind of see it with my own eyes, and it's I got to get down. I got to see all the stadiums, but I got to see Trop. There's something about it. And I actually have a buddy of mine who his family lives in Florida, and he's gone a couple times, and he told me that he actually likes it. He said he kind of likes it. He says there's something kind of tacky about it that he enjoys. So I guess that he's the only person. I always make fun of him. He's the only person in my lifetime that I've heard give positive marks to Tropicana Field at Tampa Bay. But maybe he's onto something. Maybe he's a trendsetter. I got to talk to him. So
hey, somebody's got to like it, right? That's the rule. Someone's got to like it.
It's not going to be those fans down there. I'll tell you that much.
Oh no! Oh yikes!
They don't support a team that's like one of the best in baseball. But that's a conversation.
Yeah, that's a story for another day of how good that team is compared to fan support. It's very bad. Maybe it's because the stadium's so terrible.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, Luke, it was another week.
We did it.
Maybe we'll know something about the future next week, but I doubt it. I'm beginning to doubt that we'll know anything ever about anything, and I look forward to finally playing baseball again in the year 2057.
Good. I will be retired by then, and you won't be able to find me.
I'll have a new co-host in 2057.
I'll be in Tropicana Field. Thank you very much. That's where I'll be retiring to.
He lived as he died in a tacky stadium in Tampa Bay.
Godspeed, Spider-Man.
Have a good week, Luke.
See you, buddy.